Hello, we're here today to talk about improving quality using smart factory software such as the Internet of Things, augmented reality, and quality management systems. I'm joined today by Mike Vitek from Sandalwood Engineering and Ergonomics, one of my primary partners in implementing the smart factory at my customers. As a quick procedural note, if you have questions during the presentation, please enter them into the Q&A on Zoom or the comments on LinkedIn. I will get to them at the end of the webinar. Thank you. The agenda for today is the following. I will give a quick overview of QMS, IoT, and AR systems. Then I'll walk through some workflows of how to use them together to improve quality. For the second half of the webinar, I'll be joined by Mike Vitek, and I will talk to him about how Sandalwood is seeing these solutions used at their customers and how they're actually engaging with these solutions. With that, let me start with QMS. These are the typical modules found in a quality management system, or QMS. Without getting into too many details, they are process and production control, change management, design control, product surveillance, resource management, corrective and preventive actions, and management responsibility. Meanwhile, the goals and objectives of a QMS, as defined by Gartner, are to lower costs, training employees and documenting training, housing documents and controlling versions, risk assessments, measuring and tracking quality performance, ensuring compliance with policies, regulations, and industry standards, defining and improving quality processes, and also reducing waste. Overall, it can be thought of as the system of record for the quality department, as well as the repository for quality procedures and documents. The Industrial Internet of Things, or IIoT, is a set of technologies that looks to provide connectivity to any and every device on the shop floor. Once it has that data, it can act as a data hub and send the information to other applications, or the system can persist the information into a database. These systems can also be used for closed loop control of manufacturing processes to improve quality or other production metrics. In addition, workflows can be set up within the tool to detect when deviations from expectations happen. They can alert people of what is happening or execute other more advanced workflows depending on the nature of the problem. Of the systems under discussion today, augmented reality systems represent the biggest leap from past capabilities. QMS systems have been around for a number of years, and IoT systems are an evolution of other systems such as SCADA, OEE, etc. AR systems bring new capabilities to the manufacturing floor. The capabilities these systems provide around things like work instruction delivery and error proofing can be game-changing to eliminate or mitigate the human errors that contribute to quality problems. The quality of training that can be delivered through augmented reality or virtual reality systems can also be game-changing for manufacturers. With these systems, it can be both faster to get workers up to speed on a new process and also have the workers more efficient and effective when they start working the process. So now let's look at some of the capabilities we can put in place when we combine the capabilities of these different systems together. This is just a really quick sampling. There are quite a few more examples beyond this, but I've only got 15 minutes for my portion, and I really want to get to the conversation with Mike. So in this graphic, I've combined the steps from several different problem-solving practices into one list. It's not meant to be a recommendation for yet another workflow, but just to show how smart manufacturing solutions can support all of the steps in each of the different practices. So for each one of these different steps, they can be improved through historical performance information that captures production rates, quality data, uptime and downtime data information, and much more. Detailed process data showing pressures, temperatures, vibration information, PLC tag data, etc. thorough contextual information for each one of these different events. Who was running the process, what was being manufactured, the time of day, the day of week, and much, much more. Augmented intelligence capabilities through AI and machine learning. Well-designed workflows that help users through the problem-solving steps as seen in many QMS systems. The Kappa process, as was noted earlier. Structured communication platforms that keep the team on the same page and facilitates group productivity, as well as advanced visualizations to help make the information easy to understand for all the participants. If you would like more details on this, I did a full presentation on improving the problem-solving process just a few weeks ago. I also have a detailed article on my LinkedIn newsletter walking through each step in the different process here and how smart factory solutions can make the teams more effective in each one of those individual steps. One of the fire drills that is dreaded by manufacturers is to have to analyze what happened during a recall problem. Hopefully, by implementing the things that we're talking about today, those situations don't happen, or at least not as often. But QMS and IoT systems in particular are very beneficial when they do. The QMS should house all the high-level quality data about a given product when it went through the manufacturing process. This will be the first reference for determining what happened that caused the bad product to reach the customers. But the production data and the contextual data being captured by the IoT system is also invaluable for performing root cause analysis. In the end, nearly every piece of information generated on the shop floor is actually quality data. It's a very similar process when analyzing contributions to which items end up in warranty and which do not. While the test results and inspection data in QMS are going to be the primary reference, it will also be very helpful to look at the additional context coming from the production data when attempting to find which factors correlate to the items that end up in warranty. I've had several situations arise with customers faced with these situations, unfortunately. In every case, we were able to identify factors that led to the recall issues and get them addressed within manufacturing. All three of these different systems that I'm talking about today can help with inspection and testing. QMS is certainly the home of what inspections are required, the proper procedures, the standards, and the final results. IoT systems can connect to the devices or the machines and act as a hub for vendor-specific systems associated with testing machines or 3D scanning systems, just as examples. Many of my customers are moving towards smart tooling and smart gauging systems. These devices can connect directly to the IoT system and have their ultimate results fed into the QMS. In addition, the IoT system can store information about the test process itself. For example, storing the full curve for tightening nuts and bolts instead of just the peak torque. This can help determine if it was threaded correctly or not. Just the peak value might look good, but the curve will show that it was not properly seated. Augmented reality systems can present a revolution in how inspections are performed and the way that the results are captured. The picture here shows an example of why that's the case. Instead of getting simple instructions on a piece of paper, these systems can interactively show the inspector exactly where the inspection should be performed, what it should look like versus what it does look like, capture photos or even video of the inspection itself, and even connect to smart tooling to capture precise values. This information then can be persisted and included into a certificate of compliance that can go out to customers with the products when that's required. These solutions can also be used to error-proof the process itself. Vision picking is one great example of how this can be done. As shown here, the bins with the parts needed for the current build are highlighted. These systems have to be integrated with something like I-IoT in order to let the glasses know which bins to highlight. The customers where I've seen this implemented, there's usually a single piece flow implemented with different SKUs following one another. many quality problems arise in these situations, and as it can be very challenging for the workers, especially new workers, to know which components to pick for each different SKU. And this is particularly hard in environments where there are many engineering changes. These systems with the visual picking drop those error rates down near to zero. And this is just one example of how these systems can be used to perform error proofing. So with that, let me move to the conversation with Mike. Question, Mike, can you first give a quick introduction to yourself and to Sandalwood for the audience?
Sure. My name is Mike Vitek. I'm the director for systems engineering. My background is I'm an engineer. I was schooled at a little place called General Motors Institute way back in the day. I've held various positions with consulting firms. I've been mentors to a lot of technology startups at the university. Prior to coming back to Sandalwood in 2013, I was the VP of Business Development, Strategy, and Consulting for a division of Daimler called Mercedes-Benz Technology. So I've been in this industry for about 30 years, really kind of focused on how to take technology either from a nascent stage or from a university and trying to incorporate it into industry in some way, shape, or form that's beneficial to the worker or the corporation itself.
Fantastic. And can you give a brief plug for Sandalwood?
Sure. So Sandalwood was born actually out of Ford Motor Company in 1989. Its focus is really on how to take technologies and commercialize them within a manufacturing space. So think things like non-contact alignment way back in the day, all the way up to now where we're looking to use things like augmented reality and virtual reality to design safer workspaces for the operator, to allow for easier training of those employees, to create a virtual manufacturing environment to test and simulate various options for our customers. So we're very technology focused still, as we've been since our birth. And working with a lot of different partners in the industry to bring that technology forward.
Fantastic. I'll give a quick plug to Sandalwood as well. I've worked with a lot of different system integration companies, and Sandalwood is a system integration company, but it's also much more than that. And my philosophy is always that you can put these systems in, but it's really the interactions with the people and getting the cultural shift that you need to have that data-driven culture, as well as the human factors that are in all of this to understand how to make everything better for people after you implement these things instead of just one more thing to worry about. And Sandalwood is fantastic about maintaining that human at the center of all the different processes. So they're my primary partner for implementing all the Industry 4.0 solutions within my customer base as well. So Mike, in terms of these systems, we were talking the other day about some of the different use cases that you're seeing out in the field. I was wondering if you could share those with everybody in the audience today.
Sure. So I'll focus on a couple, and let me start with a bit of a background. So over the last 3 years, I think our situation has changed significantly in how we utilize these types of technologies. So as an example, prior to all of this happening, our primary focus was integrating these technologies within say a corporate environment and getting them up and running and configuring them to meet kind of the traditional manufacturing or quality processes that a business might see, right? What's changed since then is the fact that now we've got a lot of other factors to deal with. One, we've got a highly transient workforce. People are moving in and out of jobs. People are being promoted out of jobs because of availability. And the other thing that's happening is that we're seeing that at the higher end of the workforce is that people are really leaving. So all of that corporate knowledge is kind of escaping, and it's not being captured anywhere, right? So all the tried and true and trusted folks that people could go to if they had a problem may not be there, right? So our focus over the past 3 years is really kind of migrated from just implementing a solution to now how do we capture the knowledge within that's necessary to operate the business? How do we create processes that are standard so that new employees or transient employees can get up to speed quicker? And then how can we utilize technology to make all that happen so we can create a connected workforce in the event that there is an issue or a problem? Since that time, what we've realized is that the current technology solutions that are out there have their specific limits. So a QMS will only go so far in terms of capturing data. It may not provide the connectivity with the workforce that's needed to drive a problem to solution. Likewise, with the AR and VR technologies, what we're seeing is that they become very, very practical for people in terms of training aids now, whereas before it was really kind of a show and tell. But now getting people immersed in that who are used to that kind of experience, whether it be through gaming or their own personal lives, it's really giving them kind of a leg up and really kind of expediting kind of the training process within that. So having said all that, that's really kind of been our focus now is one, finding, I'll call it particular technology solutions that can extend what I'll call a traditional space within our traditional service line provided by QMS, whether that be to, utilizing different types of media to connect workers together, to identify problems, create workflows within that, and then kind of connecting them together in a way that allows them to pull, a virtual Kanban cord, if you will, or and really kind of and get things engaged. We see actually that being done now in industry too. So most recently, one of our partners, ETQ, was purchased by a very, very large CMM vendor called Hexagon. And they see this kind of synergistic kind of accomplishment happening as well, right? So data taken from your CMM now can be stored within your QMS. Now it can drive, particular solutions and drive knowledge within the business that maybe didn't exist previously. So the things that we've been working on trying to piece that together for our clients are now starting to happen within industry with purchases and acquisitions and mergers and the like. So long preamble, right, how to get there. But I can talk about a little bit about a couple of our clients where we're implementing, particular solutions with the QMS. And then another one where maybe we're talking about kind of on the VR side. So with the VR example, we are very, very focused on getting new employees up to speed very, very quickly using that technology. So basically, we're extracting a lot of what I'll call common problems and problem sets. We're scripting that into kind of the VR reality or VR scenarios for our clients or for the new trainees to learn about how to deal with real life examples on the floor. How do they deal with real life examples? And that the data is coming from the QMS. The scripts are being built by us, of course, because there's not a real automatic way to do that. But it's been very helpful in onboarding employees very, very quickly in very technical and very challenging manufacturing environments. With the QMS, what we're doing now is we are not a traditional implementer in terms of how do we port data from your existing ERP or PLM systems into a traditional QMS. What we're really focused on is kind of the user experience. So how will the tool allow you to, for example, change the way, for example, your quality engineering organization has been divided up traditionally. So what we're trying to get QMSs to do and how we're implementing them is really kind of moving the quality engineers away from kind of a traditional transactional system like where's your FMEA? Okay, check the box, it's done. But now it's a matter of, okay, how do we take that data from the FMEA, suck it out, create a control plan from that automatically, understand the control characteristics that are driven possibly from the CMM or other data capture systems, and then how do we make sure that that kind of interface is maintained? Because that's what's really going to be important long-term for our clients and for the transition workforce that they're going to be encumbered with. Is that enough?
That's fantastic. One specific example that we talked about the other day that I don't think I heard you talk about, I was still trying to resolve the issues between here and LinkedIn, we talked about kind of automating the FMEA process.
Correct. Yeah, that's a big focus. So one of the major automotive OEMs here in Detroit is really forcing its supply base to come to grips with the fact that what you do for your FMEA is not just put it down on paper, right? So there's a process that you have to use to create that FMEA. They want it connected to all the other aspects of your business, whether it be control plans, whether it be your CMM strategy, your control strategy for measurement. They want that connected. Likewise, they also want it connected to, say, warranty or return material authorizations or those things as well. And so what we're focused on now with our partners like ETQ is how do we migrate or how do we update their software to encompass some of these new requests from our clients and and they in turn from their customers as well. So that's going to be a big focus for us in the next year, is getting the software to really help the workforce, work through those ties that are being driven from our OEM, from the OEM client.
Fantastic. Yeah, automating the FMEA process has been one of my goals for a long time, and it's something that I've talked about here on my channel in the past. But I'm glad to see that it's actually in process. We have a few questions in the Q&A, so I want to get to those.
Yep.
The first one is, how would you recommend going about selecting an IoT integrator? Let's see, my recommendation would be to go with Sandalwood, but Mike, if you want to reach out to me, I can kind of walk you through the process and how I go about thinking about that, as a kind of independent entity in the field. Let's see. So then the next question is, does a manufacturer have to have data scientists on staff in order to analyze and interpret data? My answer to that is no. It certainly won't hurt to have data scientists, but they're not necessary. These tools can be made so that the workflows can support people that don't have that level of depth in data science. And in fact, most of my customers, I would say, don't have data scientists. Mike, what's your experience there?
So I think what's interesting is that over the past couple of years, what we've seen is a much tighter integration with what I'll call the IT groups when these systems are being selected or when they're being integrated. And usually it's a matter of, does it operate on a platform? Can we get access to all the people on the floor? Does it work with handhelds? All that other stuff, right? What we're rarely actually getting an interesting feedback from them is they want to understand how does what you're going to do affect kind of our data structures, our common data models, that kind of thing. So what is actually driving is an interesting set of questions on both sides, right? So when you say about data analytics, you're right about the fact that they don't need those, but the awareness that it is necessary and the awareness that connectivity at the data level has to occur is something that it has to start very much up front, right? So yes, you can automate the analytics side, but only if you really, really start that way, right? And really understand kind of how the systems can be merged and how they can work together, right? So that's kind of a unique interface, kind of a change for us, at least on the manufacturing element, where it hasn't been that kind of a sophisticated relationship before.
Okay. Our next question is, do you find many smaller manufacturers are implementing AR/IoT? And my answer is yes. I've had customers in that as small as, I think, 35 million in revenue that are implementing those systems. I would say that it's much more common at this point amongst the bigger companies, but there are certainly solutions that have a good enough payback for many smaller manufacturers as well. And then the next question I'll let you handle, Mike, which is, does an integrator typically assist with the workforce culture and education?
So I would say they typically haven't in the past. I would say that one of the biggest changes that we've had over the past 3 years is kind of that kind of focus. The reason is that traditionally, the people that do these kinds of integrations are very, very IT centric, right? They're really focused on, where does this tie up? Where does it, impact in terms of bandwidth? Can we do load testing? All that other stuff, right? What we found with our most recent client is that we've had to bring it down to the level where we've actually had to develop the training aids and training guides and actually develop the training materials for them as they implement, because they understand kind of the workforce and what's needed, but they don't really understand, okay, how do we change the behavior, right? So what are the training techniques and that? And so we've actually got a really good partner that handles kind of some of the scripting, and then we've got behavioralists on with our ergonomics and behavioral teams that kind of help us with that human-centered design approach to help us kind of get to blend those two things.
Excellent. All right. Well, I think that's it. That was all the questions in the Q&A. First of all, thank you, Mike, for joining me today, and look forward to continuing the relationship in the future. And I do have a number of upcoming webinars in the coming weeks, so if people want to go to my website to register for those, that is available. At Visual Decisions, we combine the smart factory with the lean factory to drive improvements in your business. And thank you very much for attending today. If you have questions, please reach out to myself or Mike, and we look forward to talking with you. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thanks, everyone.